Welcome everyone to this game between Alireza Firouzja and Domaraju Gukesh at the Superunited Blitz 2025. Alireza in his very casual t-shirt here, Gukesh in his formal shirt. A very interesting clash of styles between these two players. And Gukesh has the black pieces, Alireza is white, and this will be very exciting to see. Alireza did win their first battle that was played. This is now the reversed color battle between the two, and we are ready to go. A handshake between the two, and pawn to d4. Gukesh brings his knight out. g3 played by Alireza, and Gukesh is now thinking about what to do. He pushes his pawn to d5, bishop g2 attacking here, bishop f5, pawn comes up to c4, and we have c6 on the board. The knight comes out to f3, e6 played, and the knight comes out to c3 here. Pawn goes to h6, making a luft for the bishop. The queen attacks the pawn on b7, and Gukesh just stops in his tracks and now goes queen b6, pawn push to c5, you take, a takes b3. White has the space here. Black would like to break in the center with e5 if possible. Bishop comes out to e7, and now pawn to h3 played. And black can go now knight d7. It'll be interesting to see how Alireza tries to put his pieces, where do they belong. Pawn a6, just so that the rook is no longer attacking this. It does weaken the b6 square, but the black knight will come and defend it. b4 played. Now one of the threats could be b5 potentially, because b5, if cb, I can still go knight b5 with the attack here. And Gukesh is thinking here, for example, if knight d7, b5, you have to assess how this position looks. But after castle, it seems like black is doing fine. Gukesh, instead of knight d7, goes short castle here. And pawn to g4 played here by white. Bishop h7. And how is he playing? Bishop f4. He brings in the bishop on this diagonal. And now white to play here. Maybe knight d2 to b3 to a5 could be a great idea. So Gukesh has to be careful about how he's building this up. He's taking his time. Firouzja is super quick. Knight e4 played, offering a trade of the knights. And maybe later f6, knight d7 and e5 break in the center. So he goes pawn to h4 here, trying to gain space on the king side. And now pawn to f6 played. So knight d7 with the idea of e5. And Alireza Firouzja is thinking, he goes h5. He gains more space. Knight comes out to d7. And black here finishes the development. You can see here that all the pieces and pawns are on the board except the queens. It's a very unique position. And Firouzja now brings his knight to h4. He's looking at these light squares. Fantastic. And Gukesh can now break in the center, or he can first take here, and then break in the center. The only problem is this just bolsters the center here for white. So perhaps a better idea here is directly going e5 if possible. And Gukesh is calculating. And he pushes his pawn to e5. Pawn moves forward. And the bishop is attacked here. Takes, knight takes knight. If pawn takes here or bishop takes is the question. If bishop takes e4, maybe he takes back with the bishop. So Gukesh takes with the pawn. And now d takes e5. Should Alireza take here or should he just come back? Bishop e3. Questions here to be answered. It's a very intense game, I must say. Both players playing really well in this complex structure. Both having their own plans which they are succeeding. But when the smoke clears out, who will be better? Bishop e3 played. He pushes a5 and look at this. He's weakening this entire hold. So if you take here, he would like to take here and then take on c5. So he takes with the rook. And Gukesh pauses a bit and now takes on a5, ba5, pawn takes d4, bishop takes, and now bishop takes c5. Is a good idea. Here takes on c5, knight takes on c5. And the plan is to go knight to b3 to attack this pawn and the bishop. And Alireza Firouzja goes knight to g6. He's attacking this rook and the bishop. Bishop takes, pawn takes. And let's see, what does Gukesh do next? There are some ideas, like for example, taking on c5 and taking on e4 is not a big threat. But Gukesh goes f5. And this pawn which has come on g6 is a big thorn in black's neck because it kind of limits the black king. Firouzja is calculating both players down to 2 minutes on the clock now. He's thinking about what to do here. And shaking his head, not getting the clarity on what's the way forward. Takes here. Gukesh takes with the rook. Bishop comes to h3. Very interesting move now. Because with bishop h3, he's now threatening to come on e6 with a check. The knight does defend here. But imagine something like rook d5. I take. You can take with the rook. You don't need to take with the bishop. So rook d5 is possible. You can also go back rook f8. But then I think b4 would be super strong here. And the knight is essentially trapped. Almost. He goes rook d5. The best move. Now the bishop is hanging. I guess pushing the pawn to e3 allows maybe a check later. So bishop e3 makes a lot of sense. And Gukesh goes king f8. Where do you play your bishop now? Like for example, this bishop is on this diagonal, kind of dominated, but this final square on c8 is a nice one. Also, how do you get your rook into the game? I mean, do you want to castle? It doesn't feel right to castle here. But then the rook frees up. Bishop c8, attacking here the pawn on b7. And now he's thinking here, Gukesh, what to play. Rook d8 might be a good idea to kick this bishop away. And once the bishop goes back, to come back to d5. So he goes knight to b3. And with this, he's attacking this pawn. Gukesh, Alireza can take the pawn on b7, but there is an insane sacrifice here. Look at this. Rook takes h6, g h6, bishop h6 check. If you go king e8, g7, if king f7, bishop e6 check. If king g8 here in this position, bishop e6 check, king h8, g7 and queen. Wow, what a sacrifice that would be. With Alireza, oh, finds it. Alireza Firouzja, and look at Gukesh, stunned to the core. Rook h8 is a mate. What a move and what alertness shown by Firouzja. Absolutely love it. Great move by him. Just too good. And Gukesh, who has like less than a minute on the clock, is lost for moves. By the way, his position is not so bad after bishop f6, but the shocking nature of this move is such that it's very difficult to play the next moves. Maybe bishop b4 check does make sense. He goes for a check and king f1. The problem still persists if you take. Bishop takes and g7. He takes back on a5. But now a very good move again. Rook h4 with the idea of maybe he finds it. Wow. Alireza in tremendous form, showing why he's one of the best in the world. Tremendous move. Rook h4. Knight goes to c4. A check comes in. If you come on e7, this is losing, and king g8, he resigns because bishop e6 check, and it's a checkmate. What a game by Alireza Firouzja here. Absolutely stunning. And Gukesh starts analyzing with Alireza, which is very nice to see, because generally players after such a loss do not analyze, but here Gukesh wanted to know about, if I could come back bishop c8, rook d8 maybe, and then the bishop goes back and rook d5. I think it's kind of an even position, but that move that he played, knight b3, allowing rook h6, such great alertness by Firouzja. And this is the reason why Magnus thinks he's a great speed player, and he is an amazing fighter.